Here is a short example scene that you can make with the simple dialog graph package. Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to use the simple dialog graph package, a node-based dialog system for Unity that helps you build interactive conversations quickly and visually. Firstly, import the dialog graph package into your Unity project. Mine was in the downloads folder. Once that's done, you'll see a folder named Dialog Graph in your assets alongside a control bindings script and a control bindings input action asset. If you do not have TextMesh Pro installed, Unity may ask you to install TextMesh Pro. If then, please import TMP Essential resources. Going over the important files inside the dialog graph, firstly, there is the README, which explains how you can use the dialog graph package. Then there's the global exposed properties, which acts as a global variable. Then there is the global audio files, which allows you to access and add audio files for you to use inside the dialog graph. Lastly, there is this UI prefab, which you can drag onto the scene. The dialog graph will be using this prefab to show its dialogues. If you right-click inside the project and go to Create, Dialog Graph, there are three options: Dialog Container, Global Audio Files, and Global Exposed Properties. The audio file and the exposed property already exists, so try not to create a new global exposed property or global audio file, as the scripts use their path and names to find them. The dialog container, on the other hand, is what we'll be using to make our dialog graphs. Inside our assets, we can try making a new dialog container, which will be named New Dialog Graph. We can double-click it to access it. Inside, you'll be able to see the minimap, exposed properties blackboard, and a start node. There also will be a global variable by the name that I have created as an example. If you right-click inside the dialog graph window and click on Create Node, you have 8 options: Dialog Node, Dialog Choice Node, If Node, Variable Node, Animator Node, Audio Node, Script Node, and ToolNext Node. I'll be explaining how to use these nodes in the next sections. Let's begin with the dialog node. You can input the name and the content for the text box. Then you can control the font, font size, font color, text style, and text box image. You can also add images. There is the left, there is the right, and there is the center, each with the image turning on and off, the opacity controller, and the sprite editor. Here is a simple demonstration of how this dialog graph will run. So let us move to the next node. The dialog choice node is our second node on our list. You can create new choices by clicking on this button, and you can rename them to whatever you want. And you can also delete them. Each of the output ports from the choice option can be connected to another node, but be careful not to name the choices the same things. Here is a simple demonstration of how this graph will run. The if node works similarly to a choice node, where you can click on the new choice and get something like this: X to delete, X, Y variables, and these are the operators you can select and the variable types you can select. To use the if node, let's try making a new local variable. If we click on the plus, it's going to create a new string. We can set the X value to new string, Y value to manual input. Then we can input the value of the string, which is new value, and set the operators to equals. If this condition is met, the node connected to the output port will be executed. Else, the node connected to the else output port will be executed. Let's try to execute this dialog graph while the value of the new string is set to new value. Let's try that again, but this time the value of the new string will not be new value. Hence, we confirm that our if node is working. When we make the variable node, we're going to see 3 dropdowns and 1 input field. The first dropdown represents the type of variable, the second one represents which variable you can select, and then the third one is the setting option, where there are 5 options: set, add, subtract, multiply, and divide, where some of these options can only be used on integers. If we change the variable type, the input field below will change accordingly. This change also includes the variable dropdown. Now, let us try executing this dialog graph. As you can see on the graph, if you surround the variable name by backticks, it will be printed as the variable value when the graph is executed. As we can see, the value of the new string changes from initial to hello world. Our variable node is working. For both the Animator node and the script node, the objects that are affected by that node need a script called unique ID attached onto them. You can find the unique ID script inside Dialog Graph Resources. They are used to identify the object when the dialog graph is executed. To demonstrate the use of the Animator node, I have created this game object called test object, and I have attached an animator with 2 animations inside. An idle animation and a 1-second animation where the sprite turns red. Using the test object, let me show you how the animator node works. Firstly, assign the target animator, which is our test object. Then, we can click on what animation state we want to play. We can click on wait for completion if you want the animation to be completed before we get to the next node. Let's try executing this dialog graph. As you can see, the animation plays as the text box is being shown. If we try to execute it again, but this time turn on wait for completion, the text box will show up after the animation is finished. As both the Animator node and the Script node uses unique ID, I wish to explain them next to each other. Similar to the Animator node, the Script node takes in a target game object. You have to ensure that the game object you choose has a unique ID. After it's been chosen, there will be a method dropdown that shows you the method inside the script, as well as the coroutines. Remember that the functions and the coroutines have to be public for them to show up in the dropdown. Let's use this script as an example. We'll attach this to the test object, and if we check back at the dialog graph, the dropdown option will have hello world and wait and print. Let's try to test this graph out. If we test it out, we can first see that the hello world is debugged. Then if we wait a bit, we get the waited for 2 seconds coroutine. To use an audio node, firstly you need to access the global audio files. Then enter a name, add a clip, and add a mixer group. Going back to our dialog graph, if we make an audio node, we can see that the clip we made is inside the dropdown of the audio clip. We can control what to do with the audio clip by accessing the Actions dropdown, as well as changing the volume, the speed, and the loop. The toNext node is fairly simple. When dialog node and dialog choice node are next to each other, the dialog box will not disappear. However, by putting a toNext node in between them, you can make it disappear. Let us try executing this graph first. You will notice that the text box does not disappear. Now let us try executing this graph with a toNext node. You will notice that the text box disappears. To delete a node, you have to press Command Delete. To copy a node, you have to press Command C, and to paste a node, you have to press Command V. You can also use Control instead of Command. And that will be it for my simple dialog graph package video. Thank you for watching.